Yes.
Hello, this is Donald Trump from Mr. Cohn. Thank you so much.
Donald who?
All right, welcome back to another episode of the Critics Collective. I'm Legacy Lingo. I have the legends here, Lolo and Big J, to join me. And we want to thank you guys for tuning in to this review of The Apprentice. This is the Trump origin story, as I have labeled it. It doesn't say so online, but this is what I'm going to call it. It is the Trump origin story, which is available on streaming platforms, pretty much every platform for rent. I don't know if it'll be available for free anytime soon, but as of right now, I've watched it on Amazon Prime. You can find it on almost any streaming platform. The Apprentice is played by Sebastian Stan, and it's also starring Jeremy Strong, who plays Roy Cohn, and that's going to be very pivotal to the story. I want to go ahead and put out there that I don't think we can really review this without spoiling, so I'm going to speak freely to a certain extent. If you guys have not seen this and you would like to watch it and get all the deets and then come back and watch our review and get in the comments, then please go ahead and do so, because I'm going to speak about a couple of things. I feel like in order to really review this, we have to talk about the content that's there. We can't really shy away from it, and then most of it is public knowledge. So fair warning. All right. But if you guys are joining us for the first time, we want you guys to please join the collective by hitting that subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, and hit the alerts button. We have just recently made 500 subscribers, and we're now on the road to 1,000. So we appreciate you guys that have been supporting us, and we welcome all of the new people to join the community. We're looking forward to having you. All right. So IMDB has the synopsis. I had to find a special synopsis because this is what I wanted to see exactly what's going on. So IMDb has a synopsis that says the 1970s New York, a determined to emerge from his powerful father's shadow and make a name for himself in Manhattan real estate, aspiring mogul Donald Trump is in the earliest days of his career when he encounters the man who will become one of the most important figures in his life. Political fixer Roy M. Cohn, seeing promise in young Donald Trump, the influential attorney teaches his new acolyte how to amass wealth and power through deception, intimidation, and media manipulation. It's one of the best synopses I've ever read in my life.
Perfect. I'm glad you looked for that.
Yes, everything else was so bland and flat. I was like, no, let's talk about what this movie really is about. Let's talk about what this movie really is about. So I would like to first ask you guys what your initial impression was when you came across this. Big J, let me start with you. When you saw that this movie was available, what was your initial impression?
A little bit of surprise considering the controversy around Donald Trump himself, the divisive nature of Donald Trump. So it's a little bit surprising you would make this movie right now. And that if there would, I guess there's going to be people who are interested in it, but it is like, oh, do I want to watch this? If you like it, you're going are they going to do something that I don't like? Say stuff I don't want to know. And if you don't like him, you're like, do I want to watch a movie about this guy?
Yeah.
That's exactly where I was. I was like, oh boy, is this going to lean too much in the other direction and bother me, or is it going to lean too much in the other direction and then seem like it's one-sided or biased? So I get that. How about you, Lola? What was your initial impression?
I feel like we waited until the very last minute to watch this because of the fact that we didn't want to watch a movie about Donald Trump. Our entire lives right now, even stripping politics away from it, are incredibly immersed in the life of Donald Trump. He's Absolutely. Our president. You can't deny it. He was running for president when this movie came out. So I feel like once Sebastian Stan and Jeremy Strong got nominated, that was like, okay, we'll watch it. And then we waited another couple weeks because it's just, sometimes it can be a bit much. So I was, a little nervous to watch this. So we did wait until the last minute, but now I'm glad we watched it. And so I'm glad to have a forum to talk about it. So,
all right. Well, if you guys don't mind, I would like to start with my highs and lows.
Yes.
All right. So I'm going to start with my highs. Number one, I thought the title was phenomenal. I know that this title basically deals with Donald Trump being an apprentice of Roy Cohn. But the fact that he has success with that series, you know, when you guys suggested to me and I saw the title at first, I just was like, of course they would call that, but I really had no idea what I was getting into. So I thought that was the fact that that title fit so perfectly with the story. I really loved it. The insight that we got on how green Donald Trump was, even though he came from money, he was a nobody. Okay. And without that tutelage and mentorship from Roy Cohn, he would still be a nobody today, in my personal opinion. And so for them to show it in that manner, again, like I said, my initial impression, I was worried that it's either going to go in one direction too much or in another direction too much. And I felt like one of the things that about this movie that I loved the most was that I felt like it was just honest, in my opinion. Even though I may not know fact for fact, I just felt like it was honest. And whether you feel like it leans one way or another, it still felt very honest to me. I love the fact that it exposed this self-made billionaire as somebody who actually defaulted multiple loans and screwed many people over. And yes, he had visions and he had good ideas for that era. You know, I get that, but he wasn't able to succeed without any financial assistance, which is something that he's so much against now. Here I go. I'm just going to stay on the surface there, you know. But it's just funny to me how people that have all of these springboards and these opportunities and these things that a lot of people don't have, they're disgusted when other people are trying to get those same things to move up, and they're doing whatever they can to stop us. And I just don't, anybody who calls himself self-made when they had so many handouts, especially the biggest one for me is Roy Cohn, who didn't even start charging him for his legal counsel and his tutelage until years later. And I felt like if that partnership, that mentorship, everything about that is what, in my opinion, what made Donald Trump who he is today. And I think that's what I love the most about it, how they showcase his ever-growing narcissism. And in my opinion, I know it's going to sound very weird, but whenever somebody's actually narcissistic, if they can back it up, or if they can show that they are as great as they think they are, I accept it. Even if it's disgusting to me, I accept it. You know, there's some basketball players that have egos, or football players, but every time they get on the field, they show you why. So I accept it. In my opinion, this film exposed him as somebody that didn't earn anything. He just happened to be partnered with the right person that taught him how to manipulate and get over, and it helped him. And then when it came time for him to give credit to where credit was due, he took all of it. And I was just blown away watching this. I was like, wow, you know, I felt a lot of different things. I love that they just really just didn't hold back, in my opinion. I mean, there were some things that there's rumored from that time that maybe they couldn't fact check or they want to stay away from, as far as the real estate and the mob and those contracts and things of that nature. But everything I got, I still felt like was very open. Now, there was some scenes that I could have done without, you know, situations between him and Ivana. But it needed to be shown. It needed to be shown. And those are actually all of my highs. Surprisingly, even though it was a lot of negatives, I was very appreciative of the version that we got. I was appreciative of Sebastian Stan and his acting and everything. The only low that I actually have was the reaction afterwards, as I was doing research, other reviews and other comments. Despite all the negatives I observed in this film, they still received this as a film telling us an amazing story about a great man. Like I literally have one here. I'm going to quote. He said, I saw this at a premiere screening and I was blown away. The story is well told and accurate, which was refreshing. So I thought we were on the same page. And then he goes on to say, it was a reasonable portrayal of a fascinating man. What we really got was great acting by Sebastian Stan. He was phenomenal, and he nailed Trump's mannerism and his greatness. So that's a low for me, is the fact that you showed us all of these telling things, and it just doesn't move the needle. It's kind of just falls on deaf ears. People still find a way to still, and I'm getting political now, so I'm gonna back up off it. Okay, but that is probably the film itself. I thought was done very well. I love all the contrast to the things that we get from the man today versus where we see where he got that from, and how he was never that person, and he wouldn't be that person without certain people in his life or certain loans or things of that nature. And I just loved it. I just loved it. So I went on way longer than I wanted. We're already at 10 minutes, but that's okay. This movie
That's
deserves
good.
a conversation.
It
Lolo,
does.
yeah, it does, right? I'm gonna move on to you, Lolo. Please give us your review, and remember, we're not worried about spoiling, so just let us have it.
Yeah. Well, I'll let you have some of it. It's really hard to extricate my own personal politics from a movie about somebody who is so bombastic and has been detrimental to a lot of society and a lot of things that we value as people. I know the three of us have had many conversations about this. So I'm going to try my best. Again, these are my own personal thoughts. I'm going to try and, like you said, back up off it. I think that Sebastian Stan had an incredible year last year between this and A Different Man. And he absolutely nails Trump. I mean, the way he holds his mouth, I can't imagine the amount of like planning and just like looking at himself in a mirror being like, how do I do this right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He got it so well. And it's sort of like a Frankenstein's monster where you see him more Sebastian Stanny in the beginning, and then he lets the Trump take over towards the end of this movie. And there were some shots that were done maybe from like a low angle or a high angle in a shadow, and I could have sworn that it was really Donald Trump. That's how convincing it was. Shout out to the makeup team for this movie because I thought they did a great job, especially with the hair. Jeremy Strong, also equally incredible as Roy Cohn. It's Roy Cohn's fault in large part. So
Yeah.
whatever you want to say about that. I agree. I think that what Eddie said was imperative. The people who need to watch this movie are not going to watch this movie. And the people who, because they don't want to see any criticism, they don't want to see any possible like dalliances, like you said, with the mob, whatever, blah, blah, blah. All that stuff's left on the cutting room floor anyways, so it's neither here nor there. But the people who need to see this won't see it. And the people who don't agree with Trump and his politics probably don't want to watch this anyways. Because, like I said earlier, we're inundated with this all the time. As a movie, I think it's extremely well made. I can't say I enjoyed watching it. I probably would never watch it again. I could just turn on the TV. But it's interesting to see that Frankenstein's monster, how Roy Cohn sort of lost control of the situation with Trump and how he started out this one way. You can see when certain like slurs are thrown casually in his presence, how Trump sort of like makes these like he recoils a little bit like, oh. And then by the end of that movie, he's just hurling them himself. So that monster got away from him and it's his fault. So amazing movie. Very much enjoyed it. Probably won't watch it again. Sebastian Stan, I wish this was your year. You've had such a good post-Marvel career. But Ray Fiennes, I'm still in your corner for Conclave. Sorry, Sebastian. Sorry,
Hey, it is what it is. Yeah, I think it'll be fun. All right, Big J, let's have it. Your highs and lows, sir.
Hi. We got to talk about the acting. She mentioned it. You mentioned it. Sebastian Stan, fantastic. There's a big when you do a biopic like this to fall into that kind of SNL caricature thing, like doing the full, like almost jerky Donald Trump that you see on the impersonators do on SNL or online or anything like that. And Sebastian Stan avoids that. He gets the mannerisms down without falling into that caricature. He's not a caricature of Donald Trump. He's still Sebastian Stan playing Donald Trump, but he's not just trying to fully imitate Donald Trump.
Right.
Jeremy Strong, fantastic. All that is great. I don't know enough about Roy Cohn, like his mannerisms and whatnot, to say how. I'm pretty sure it's pretty accurate, but I'm not as familiar with Roy Cohn, obviously, as we are with Donald Trump, because Donald Trump is in the media all the time. I think
Cohn's also dead, so
yeah, he is dead. One thing is like this was actually a fairly even-handed. There's the opportunity to do like a hit piece, like just like a full hit piece, like on Donald Trump or something like that, and it is actually pretty handed and a very truthful. I know, I think Eddie and I are both old enough to remember a lot of these, you know. And so a lot are actually just straight shots of magazine clips of anything of stuff you'd see in the media in the 80s. Like some are direct shots and things that we know happened that we're very aware of, you know.
Right.
So that were big news then. And it does go into, you know, it is like Lolo said, a Frankenstein's monster situation where it's like, oh, you know, every trumpist we have now came from Roy Cohn originally. The obsession with winning, you know, oh, winning is all that matters. You know, if you cheat, if you blackmail, if you do all this, winning matters. If you lie, and the second one is like, oh, truth. They say that towards the end of the movie. It's like the only truth is what I say. The truth is relative, basically. And you see, oh, alternative facts type thing. You know, the only it goes right into that. And he's when he's talking about having his Art of the Deal ghostwritten by the author who wrote it, and stuff like that. So all these tribes were all originally the things of Roy Cohn. It's the person who blackmailed his way. That's how he got Trump to start. He's like, oh, he's literally blackmailing politicians with sleazy photographs or with recordings of stuff they said to get them to waive taxes. Like, oh, we completely waived the $150 million property tax you would owe if you built this, you know, because I'm being blackmailed. So stop and not do that, you know. And he wouldn't do that without that, you know, tax waiver, without that kind of connection. So it also goes into the lot of meritocracy when we talk about, you know, self-made people, where it's like, oh, the majority of people, it's not so much how much you know or how hard you work. It's meeting people at a lot of times. It's knowing people at the right time and getting in there and getting connections. That's often why, you know, a lot of these higher learning things are so coveted, not because you get the best education there, but you can develop the biggest connections. People who went there, people who have, you know, societies there, and you kind of find these connections and inroads to businesses, you know, because they all come through those organizations. So, you know, this touches on that, and it is that kind of morph that you see with Sebastian Stan, where he's like, oh, this young guy, and he's gonna, oh yeah, I mean, it's like slightly Donald Trump, but not like the Donald Trump we know today. And as the movie goes on, it's on and on. It's like, oh, this is more and more, and he falls more and more to that overseller. You know, he's like that. You know, who is bombastic, but he is basically the king of overpromising.
Yes,
he will. Yeah, he is the king of overpromising, and oh, this will be huge. This will be perfect. It'll be the best thing ever. You'll never lose. You'll never see. You know, and if it goes, it's me. Right? It's because if it goes, it was their fault. They did something. They messed it up. That's a lot of it. But you know, it kind of goes, and it. You know, I was surprised how much I did was engaged by this movie, and it's actually really paced too. The movie's about 2 hours long, but it did not feel 2 hours long. It kind of breezed by.
right.
I was surprised how well it breezed by.
Yeah,
I'm glad you mentioned that.
Lolo?
Yeah.
Yeah. Last time, you know, other than, you know, having to watch more of Donald Trump than we already have to see in the world, you know, that's really the biggest blow. And it's, you know, I can't think of a lot of blows about this movie, other than, you know, the subject matter is tough to watch. But I wouldn't necessarily say that's a low. You know, there's a lot of things that happen, but there's, you know, nothing in this that would be like, oh, this was bad filmmaking or this was a bad storytelling or anything like that. It's just, you know, the subjects are not the, you know, are very controversial characters in the world, and they're not good people anyway. You look at it. They're pretty,
Right.
you know, villainous people in the sense that they exploit people constantly. And this isn't exclusive to Donald Trump who does this. A lot of people in the business world do that. So it's not like it's just him. But people like Rokan and all of them, they'll do anything they can to get ahead. And so, you know, it covers that pretty well. And his father wasn't good, and it goes into his family stuff that's, you know, that we may not know about. Like, you know, his brother. I didn't even really know he had a brother.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. So it goes and early and how they make me humanize Donald Trump for a little bit before he turns into the full Trumpism. But there's a little bit there where you're like, oh, he's actually, you know, it has this kind of human feeling about him. So they do, and it's hard to do that with a character as controversial as Donald Trump, to make you actually see something beyond just the character we already know, you know.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's the one of the biggest things that they didn't stay on it long, but it was still a very loud noise they made when you see how his father was, and then the brother and everything. It makes sense why he dove headfirst into somebody like Roy. Why he just started drinking the Kool-Aid. He was just like, you're gonna help me get over these things. I'm fighting my father on this. I need to show him I'm gonna be somebody, and you're gonna help me get there. And then when it starts happening, it just makes sense. And then it happens so fast. And then of course, I mean, not trying to make excuses, but it's understandable how he can get so immersed in that and start really, because it's working and it's achieving those goals, and he's reaching levels that he probably didn't even think he would reach himself. He always talked about it, but you could even see, because Sebastian Stan's acting was so good, that he wasn't even sure himself when he kept saying he was going to make this hotel the best in New York. You could see the, like, I hope so in his eyes, but he didn't mean it. Then later on, like Lolo pointed out, you start seeing that monster there, and then and he, like you said, he's overselling, and then at that point, he felt like, if you believe this, then it will be true, and you could see that confidence of speaking. But early on, yeah, it was very obvious and very loud how green he was, how vulnerable he was, how innocent he was to an extent, and I thought this is a great movie, which is why we should go ahead and rate it. Oh, but go ahead.
I was gonna say, you mentioned something earlier that I kind of wanted to touch on too, and Josh said something as well, Big J, like the humanization. I was worried that it would humanize him too much. And then there is a really good balance of like humanizing him just a little bit, and then, like you said, Eddie, there's those really tough to digest scenes, which I think in any other movie I would have immediately been like, no, that's like a hard line for me as a film watcher, as a woman,
right?
Specifically. But I think that it's important to know that, especially now that he has won the presidency again, that this is who people voted for at the end of the day. And that's going to stick with a lot of people. And it's not a politics issue, that is a moral issue. So yeah, I don't think they humanize him like too much, especially around the time when his brother, passes away. That's probably the only moment where I was like, oh, as somebody who's lost a family member, I think anybody can identify with that. Like, it's terrible, but also he's terrible too.
There you go. Yeah,
my opinion.
Hey, and that's what we're allowed to give our opinion, to have our opinion here. So let's go ahead and rate this. I'm interested still, even though it was a hard watch. I am very excited to hear where you guys are going to place this as a film. Because our rating is going to be as a film. My rating is not at all going to stepping outside of just the creation that we got. It has nothing to do with my personal feelings for Trump and his ways. So let's go ahead and then get to the ratings. We do give our accolades here, Critics Collective style, from 0 to 5. 5 being excellent, a must-watch, highly recommended for all viewers. 4 accolades, good, worth watching, but has notable flaws. 3 accolades is average, some enjoyable moments, but lack significant impact. 2 accolades, below average, some redeeming qualities, but generally disappointing. 1 accolade, poor quality, not recommended. And 0 accolades, horrible, absolute trash. So I want to start with you, Big J. How many accolades do you give this?
I'm going to say, I think, a 4. 4 accolades. I'd probably never watch it again. It's worth watching. But I think it's a good movie, definitely worth checking out.
Yes, I love it. Give it a good 4. Lolo, how many accolades?
I am also going with a 4. I think it has tremendous acting. It's very well shot. It's a competent, art piece and filmmaking. If you strip the politics away from it, it is still a compelling watch. Like I said, to watch that Frankenstein's monster sort of unravel slowly. And I will silently in the background be voting for everybody who got nominated, but also Ray Fiennes.
Yes, awesome. Yeah, I don't blame you for that one. I don't blame you for that one. I am also with you guys. I'm gonna give it a 4. It in my opinion, it was still a very good movie. Watching it was tough. A lot of stuff that you you don't want to accept, you don't want to be true, you don't want to relive it, you know, and all of that. You see how it leads up to what we're dealing with today, and it's rough, but it was done so well, you know, as far as the writing, the telling of the story, the acting. I have to give it a 4, and I recommend that if anyone, no matter what side you fall on, I think you should go watch this movie and then come back in the comments and let us know how you feel about it, what you thought. All right. So again, if you guys like the content we're putting out, please make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit the like button on this video, and hit the alerts button. Join the collective community. We got well over 500. We're growing, and we're on the road to 1,000. And we want to have you guys with us. Okay. I'm Legacy Lingo, Lolo, and Big J. This was The Apprentice, the Donald Trump origin story, which is available on streaming platforms. And we will see you guys on the next one.